Before we start, I want to take a quick moment to thank our super special homies who have donated to help keep this show going. And first off, I want to say thank you so much to newly qualified homeopath Bruce Anderson from London, who's just recently graduated from the amazing CHE, and he's donated to the show twice. He's actually paid for a whole episode all by himself now. So Bruce, thank you so much for your donations and all the best for your clinical practice. Also, a huge thank you to the beautiful Sarah Valentini, also Bridget O'Loughlin, Karen von Bardeleben. I've had a donation from you in the past, Karen, and we met at the AHA conference, so it was so lovely to see your name pop up. Also, Tanya Jeffrey, Amy Jal, and Lisa Paul, who is just such a freaking legend. And Lisa, I think you've paid for about 2 episodes all by yourself now. So thank you so much, guys. You rock my world. I cannot do this without you. Honestly, every time I see a donation come out, it just adds fuel to my fire, because paying for all the editing and the producing costs all by myself does get a bit much. So when your donations come through, it just really means the world to me. So I want to say thank you, thank you, thank you with all my heart. And if anyone else would like to donate, feel free to visit www.eugeniekruger.com and click the donate button at the top. Enjoy the episode. Today, we speak with Dr. Angelica Lemke, Sarah Valentini, and Lizzie Martinez from the School of Intuitive Homeopathy. If you would like to learn more about the amazing work that they are doing or sign up to one of their programs, visit www.intuitivehomeopathy.org. Thanks for listening.
Welcome to the Homeopathy Hangout, where we discuss all things homeopathy from around the world. And now my mum and your host, Eugenie Kruger.
Hello, homies, and a very warm welcome to Homeopathy Hangout. Today with me, I have got 3 gorgeous homeopaths who I have so much love and respect for, and I'm so excited to have them all here in one space today. So very warm welcome to the show, Angelica Lemke.
Thank you, Eugenie.
And the lovely Sarah Valentini.
Thanks, Eugenie. Nice to be here.
Now, you are both return guests, and we also have with you your gorgeous colleague, Lizzie Martinez. Welcome to the show.
Thanks so much for having us.
So first time on the show, Lizzie, but you and I will get to hang out by the pool in Bali in a couple of months. It's going to be amazing. Now, you 3 are part of the School of Intuitive Homeopathy, and I wanted to get you on the show today to tell us a little bit more about what you do. Now, people can go listen back to the episodes that we've done with Angelica and with Sarah, but it just seems that this conversation around intuitive homeopathy is popping up more and more. I don't know if you're finding this as well from when you first started the school versus now, but it just seems to be in all the Facebook groups and all the conversations I'm having, there's so much confusion around this. So I thought, let's just have a good old chin wag about what exactly is intuitive homeopathy. Angie, can you tell us a bit more?
Thanks, Eugenie. Intuitive homeopathy came about organically through all 3 of us and many other homeopaths out there who are practicing working with women, mothers, and children. So Lizzie, Sarah, and I have spent years, 10, 20 years together. We probably have 50 years of experience working with special needs families. And when you work with these families and these kids, you realize you need to use all the tools that you can get. And especially the tool of the heart is the most important. So the power of our women's intuition or mother's intuition or the core of us that just feels energetically what resonates for healing that child, that naturally evolved in all 3 of our practices independently. And then we all came together through law of attraction. Wow, oh my God, you practice the same way that I do. And we all have these pretty powerful results as well. And we all had the traditional training, the classical training. So we stand on the shoulders of that and we don't deny it. But we definitely learned to empower that side of ourselves. And through the school that we all instruct at, that's our goal, is to really bring some evolution to homeopathy, bringing more of the feminine in, bringing more of the part of us that receives and welcomes in the mystery and allows for the space to welcome in the answers as well. Like, we don't always have to mentalize it. I'm glad that it's spreading. When I first started talking about this, I felt like I was a witch that was about to be put to the stake, and I don't feel that way anymore. This is good. And it's definitely not a denial of classical homeopathy. It's just a really opening of the box.
Mm. Sarah, when did you, because Angie, you started the school, right? And so just talk to me can you tell me a little bit more about the progression of that? When did the school start? And then when did the ladies come
Yeah.
and join you? And
Sure. So in my practice, I was treating a lot of pandas, which all of us treat, and many homeopaths are now seeing cases of. And when those moms use homeopathy and they heal their kids, they are so empowered and they want to become homeopaths. So these moms that I was working with were like begging me to teach them. And I thought, how am I going to do this? Because it's so complex. So really, I couldn't be partial about it. I developed a deep 2-year curriculum, and I brought 20 women through a group 2-year series of teaching. And then I brought 40 women through another 2 years of teaching, and then another like 60 women. So the group is maybe between 30 and 60 women that I've been working with. And then this last round is where I've started to expand and bring other teachers in. And so Sarah has been supportive of me teaching case taking, doing case reviews, Lizzie the same. And we are going to start in the fall a new round of teaching starting from the minerals, and we're going to be collaborating with the teaching for that. And so it's a fresh start for a new set of students that we'll be working deeply with. And this is not a superficial school that's just trying to kind of give you the kind of glory of homeopathy without the depth. We want to produce people that want to work with these families. These are not easy cases that we have anymore. And it definitely requires us to really work with each other and take the best of our skill sets. So yeah, hopefully we're going to attract in some really stellar people who both want that strong foundation as well as are really open-minded. They're already employing these intuitive gifts within themselves already, and they want to work with this group of kids. And our goal is not to be overly mental, but to find what's best in you, to cultivate what's best in you. We're living in these times where it's very challenging. And so we need to cultivate people's fearlessness and their ability to follow their hearts and become confident practitioners. And there are schools where people graduate and they're even more scared to practice than when they first went in because it's so heady. And it shouldn't be that way. Like, it shouldn't be that you come out and you need more lycopodium and more ignatia. It should be that you come out and you're just emanating this divine spirit within you that wants to serve.
yeah, you said something powerful there, because that definitely Sarah and we had an interview yesterday with a panel discussion, and she said out of your class of 12, you're the only one practicing. I think our figures are about the same. We had a class of probably about 12 as well, and I'm pretty sure I'm the only one practicing as well. And that is a huge warning sign. Imagine you've got 12 doctors graduating and only one is actually practicing. You'd be asking some serious questions.
I started working with Angie when I found Angie through her dispensary and noticed that she was talking about treating Lyme and treating pandas and pans. And at that time in Australia, like, I didn't have any other homeopaths. It's like pretty straightforward what everyone's doing. And so I was like, oh my God, great. And then there was the intuitive piece, which I felt like it almost gave me permission to then really expand into that intuitive part of my practice that I was navigating on my own, really. And so I went through the course with Angie, and it was just great. And what really grabbed me was that I was actually probably one of the only qualified homeopaths in the course. Maybe there were a couple of others, but it was mainly these mothers who have been through all of this with complex children, mothers with complex children, and they have been through all the biomedical treatments, and then they've started engaging homeopathy, and their minds have been blown. And then they've done this course, and I was completely blown away by their knowledge and what they brought to being able to prescribe the remedies. It was quite different. And I still see that because we just had the certification students have their graduation, and I saw them move to a point where I could see them easily going into their own practices. And they blow me away more so than other practitioners that I've mentored that have done a 2 or 2.5 or 3 year program. These students, it really did blow my mind how ready they were and how good they were. Like, it was almost like, I don't even know if I've got anything to share with you or teach you anymore because you're so ready to go and do this. And the other thing, we do have a really solid grounding in homeopathic education, because there's often that question mark around, what is this intuitive homeopathy thing? Or is it just like plucking things out of somewhere? But there is a really solid grounding in pathophysiology and about materia medica and all of the things you need to know. But it is bridged with how to sense, how to tune in with your clients, how to use your heart as well, and bridging that heart and head, heart and brain, the knowledge that we can bring through both of those things.
Yeah, thank you. I am so excited about this. And of course, we all feel homeopathy is the medicine of now, and it's the medicine of the future. And so you don't get to the place that we've all been in our practices without being so incredibly passionate about homeopathy. And we've been in practice for a really long time, all of us. Intuitive homeopathy is a tool, but it's also a way of, there are a lot of tools in homeopathy, as we know. There's so many ways to practice. There's so many, I tell my clients, it's how many arrows you have in your quiver. You can have so many tools to use in homeopathy that are so incredibly effective. And intuition is a very powerful tool. I think in our practices and in the world we are being called to greater and greater levels of service because our cases are more and more complex. The world is complex, and homeopathy follows some very basic and practical fundamental rules. And it also has the power to really take you out of that box and take you someplace different as a person and a practitioner, as well as a prescriber, a home prescriber. And so I get really excited about dropping in. And part of us as teaching intuitive homeopathy is us becoming more and more as practitioners committed to our own self journey, our interior, being on the journey of the self as well. And so I think as we are on that journey ourselves, we're also imparting that to practitioners. And there's just so much wisdom there that we can combine in the school. Practical wisdom, practical case taking, practical years of combined understanding about case taking, case management. Case management is huge. How do you manage cases? It's the first prescription is 10%, sometimes 10% of our case, right? So management, all imparting of these years that we've spent treating our clients. And then I think bringing in this heart-centered piece and really dropping into what it means to use your intuition as a tool. And that is a journey of self-exploration as well as an actual fundamental tool of prescribing. So I think there's a lot of cutting edge excitement in what we're doing together collaboratively. Not to mention, we are really raising the bar in terms of what it means to collaborate, because the future is collaboration. There's really just no way around it, right? The future is collaboration. And so in our collaborative practices, we all collaborate in our practice as well, in collaborative teaching. This is really the new model. And I'm excited to be part of the new model.
Thank you. I love that, Lizzie. And I feel that there's a sisterhood that has developed throughout all of this. And I'm super grateful to have all of you in that and weaving this web together in all these locations. It's inspiring that we can hold space for one another and help each other when we're going through rough times. And so that's what it is too, is bringing the feminine in is community. It's that collaboration. Like, we're not in it by ourselves. Like, you guys are joining me to support me to get the word out. And I'm just so grateful. So if you're listening on audio, you're not seeing that Lizzie is wearing a feather necklace right now. And that feather is such a reminder of the kind of bird's eye view. So in homeopathy, we have all of the animals, and Lizzie's going to help with teaching the animals and the minerals, and Sarah's going to help with teaching the nosodes, the miasms, and the plants. And with the animals, the birds really represent this bird's eye view, this top-down view perspective. And when a bird sees things from this higher perspective, they see it all, they see the patterns, and they move into those patterns with their heart-led intuition. Most animals do, but definitely intuition fits so nicely with the birds. And it is something that we also like to be able to teach. And some people say you can't teach intuition. It just comes or doesn't come. And it's not true at all. Actually, it was one of my students who gave me this metaphor. She said, intuition is like a river. It's like this flowing energy that's like water, that's just movement, and it's moving in a certain direction. But if everything was water, you had nowhere to put your hands or put your feet. So say intuition is like the river, a shore or the river bank is your foundation. And so we need to teach the riverbank. We need to give you the container. We need to give you those boundaries for which your intuition can flow. So that is learning. This sounds even geeky, the periodic table of elements. And Lizzie and I are going to, with heart and passion, teach something as geeky and as intellectual and making it exciting as the periodic table of elements in the fall. And so we can learn all the science behind it, and then we get to learn about the magic behind the periodic table and how we get to navigate that intuitively. And it's so exciting because when I studied this, one by one learned each element according to how the Dutch homeopath Jan Scholten, who developed element theory. And I was like, oh my God, I get it. And now I can see what the Ferrum series and what the Silver series is. And then it's like learning notes on the piano, and then you start to feel it. And it's almost like my hand can scan across this and just feel where the energy of the person might even be. Like I'll take a case and my left hand will literally feel the periodic table of elements to feel into where's there the accuracy, where's the resonance. I don't know. I see Sarah nodding. Maybe you do something weird like that too.
Yeah, I've definitely done that before. I do whatever comes to me at the time. But I think it's that knowledge and understanding and of the different groups, because we do teach the kingdoms, which, as Angie said, it's the minerals and then the miasms and nosodes and then the animals and the plants. And so then you really get to know them as a group, as well as individual families or individual stages or series or whatever, as we do in the periodic table. But they all tell a story. And that's the thing I think that makes this. I did 6 years of training as a homeopath, and I could understand the remedies and all of that kind of thing. But this story that we brings it alive so that you actually can go, this person that sits in front of me, I can see that they'll probably need a remedy from that group, or whatever it is, we can really, that's where the intuition comes in too. It's almost through storytelling. It's not just the words in the materia medica, because if anyone's looked at a materia medica, which are wonderful places to source information, but they are really just a collection of words or sentences taken from the provings. And so it doesn't always highlight what this remedy is. And we really do that in the course so that you can really bring that to your practice, which is pretty cool, I think.
What it reminds me of is the skill of active listening, which I think is something that can become such a wise tool in our practices. And it's a great way, something that we can palpably teach. I agree with Angie. You can teach intuition. We're actually teaching how to relax the analytical mind. The analytical mind is a beautiful thing that we all have access to, and it tends to want to drive your car and run the show and be in charge. And in fact, when we allow it in all aspects of our lives, to settle in and be on equal footing with our intuition, otherwise known as our inner knowing, then we actually, in all areas of our life, open ourselves up to different types of information that is very valuable information. When we're in our hyper analytical mind, we're really just sourcing from one channel. So we want to relax the analytical mind, have it be in its place. It can check the repertory. It can, read in the materia medica, and it's great for that. And when we are in an embodied, active listening, connecting with our inner knowing, we are actually becoming more multifaceted prescribers and practitioners. And that's absolutely something you can teach. So I love the idea of we're teaching the kingdoms, we're laying the foundation of principles and story so that upon which a student has a firm foundation from which to then have confidence to access inner knowing.
I actually just want to hop onto what Angie said about learning the periodic table. And that was actually such a great example, I think, of sitting there first, doing the groundwork. And this is what I think the main thing that we want people to get out of today, that we're not just randoms coming off the street and then making up remedies. Like Sarah said, saw a bird in the sky and then decide, okay, that's the remedy that the person needs, from no kind of groundwork. Like, this comes from a grounded place. You are actually sitting there studying the periodic table, learning each element in its entirety. And then your analogy, Angie, was just perfect. And because I play piano as well, I think that really resonated. You're learning the notes. So you can, like, learning the periodic table is like, okay, that is where middle C is. Okay, so your mind is learning that's middle C. Okay, that is D. And then the intuition part is when you're starting to play. Okay, what song can I play with this? And I really like that analogy. That's really struck a chord, no pun intended. But you're actually sitting there doing the groundwork, learning the notes, and then the intuition is with playing around. And then also, Lizzie, can you give us some other ways of how you teach intuition? I really like what you said there. What other things do you guys do at the school to teach intuition?
I certainly think teaching intuition in general is teaching trusting of oneself. So a huge part of our intuition is allowing ourselves the first step, which is, what am I feeling? So our first teaching us to be embodied, right? Our intuition, our inner knowing comes from our body, actually. So how to be embodied, more embodied. And then after that, what am I feeling? And then after what am I feeling, trust it, value it, communicate it. And that's actually something I teach quite a bit in my practice. So the first step is, what am I feeling? And many people have to really get in touch with, what am I feeling? That's a big question for a lot of people. What am I feeling? A lot of people have not been asked that actual question. So as we're learning the story, yes, and all the foundational pieces along that way, we're also helping each other through trust, through connection, access that embodied place where we can ask ourselves, what am I feeling right now? And then learn to trust that. Trust is a big part of our own inner knowing. I guess I would just speak to the fall and excitement around the geeky beautiful love of the periodic table, which Angie and I will be teaching, and to really drop in the excitement of minerals. There is a lot there to kick off our program. And I would say that this school really calls people who are interested in becoming the next generation of homeopathic prescribers and homeopaths. And that's why this program is really unique, to get a firm foundation and also be part of the new wave of homeopathy.
One thing I am just so honored is the depth of experience of all of us. This is not homeopathy light. These are medicine women who have been medicine women for lifetimes. This is beyond homeopathy. It's shamanic, it's dream work, it's, deep energy medicine, working with archetype and working with the collective. I feel like there's some really powerful evolution and learning that can happen just by flowing together. And so I'm just so grateful to be in the presence of you sisters and be in the support of one another. And we've grown so much already. And we do have a group practice as well that we operate out of, although some of us aren't actively practicing out of busyness. But yeah, I'm so grateful. Thank you. Thank you, Lizzie. And Lizzie, by the way, speaking of embodiment, is in a dance class right now. She's in her car, stepping out of the dance class. So one of the best places. Do you ever get, Lizzie, remedy ideas as you're doing dancing?
Oh, I'm doing contact improvisation.
Or intuitive hits?
Yep. Yep. It does, because it puts you into flow. And so it does help me access that part of myself for sure.
That's amazing. Thank you so much for joining us, Lizzie. I know you've got time constraints, but thank you so much for joining us.
Look forward to seeing everyone in Bali.
Yay.
Yeah. Bye-bye.
Bye.
I was also thinking, just on the back of the intuition thing, that it's like wanting to really, the part of teaching intuition is also part of teaching people like how to trust themselves, but how to find how they work intuitively themselves. It's not an instructing thing. This is how you should do it. It's like an encouraging of somebody to really sink into themselves and to operate from that place. And then the tools that they use come, whether it's muscle testing or pendulum testing or whatever it might be.
Yeah. And I was feeling that there are homeopaths listening to this podcast that don't want to go through a 2-year program or study a lot again, but just to encourage and give them that permission. That I've had homeopaths say, oh, I intuit flower essences, but I feel like I have to repertorize homeopathic remedies. And I'm like, wait, that doesn't make sense. Like, they're almost one and the same, but it was because this was out of Canada and they felt like to practice homeopathy, you have to show the evidence at why and how you came up with the remedy that you came up with for, I don't know, the way that you could get maybe your files looked at or something like that. So yeah, it's an odd thing, but homeopathy at its core is about energy, and resonance can be felt. All homeopaths should actually start paying attention to the ways that they do use their intuition and be fearless in learning to trust that. And especially when you have your moments of serious challenge with a case, like you've just been, and everybody has them. If you're not having them, then I don't think you're probably being realistic. You seriously challenge, then you can say, I don't know what the answer is. Can you admit to that? Can you admit to saying, I don't know what to do. I have no idea what to do. And then be comfortable with that. Mm-hmm. And then say, okay, I don't know what to do, but my higher self, the energy in this situation, the higher self of my client knows exactly what's needed. And the feminine is creating that receptivity, that cave within ourselves, that sacred moment, that quiet listening that actually can receive the answer. And I believe like your long-term effective homeopaths are always doing that, whether they're naming it or not. When there's plenty of men, there are some super intuitive men out there. This is not men versus women. But for sure, you can start to recognize, hey, that just dropped in with a big yes. That the name of that remedy dropped in with a big yes, and I'm going to listen to it. Or the universe, just like you were thinking of owl, and then the owl went whoo outside your window, and you're like, that's a pretty strong sign. I think I better go with that. It's okay, because the universe speaks to us. We can allow that information in.
I just have to say, I think if more of us were taught intuition or intuitive to prescribing when we first start out learning to be homeopaths, it would save so many hours of repertorization, because the amount of times that, especially at the start, think of a remedy in a case and then you're like, no, it can't be that. And your doubt starts kicking in, and then you spend 7 hours repertorizing, and then you end up with that remedy that you thought would suit the person anyway. I think it would save us so much effort.
Yeah. And perhaps, Sarah, you have a comment on this. I repertorize. I love my Mac rep on my old computer that I still have going. And what I do is I'm like, oh, these are some strange, rare, peculiar, or interesting symptoms. Actually, we had a deer have a miscarriage on my property today, or the neighbor's property, and everyone's crying. And And then I'm like, okay, what are the remedies for stillbirth and miscarriage? And then as I read across, the remedies pop up across the top of the screen. I scan my finger across them and I feel like what feels right, what feels right, what feels right. I didn't read and I was pulled in and I used my finger as if it was a pendulum. So I do repertorize. And I don't know, Sarah, perhaps you have a comment on that, on combining some of our traditional skills like repertorization with intuition. And then I came up with 2 remedies. And then I went to my homeopathic dispensary and I felt across there too. I was like, is there anything else that would help this little deer that's just had a miscarriage? And then my hand just went and pulled out holy basil. And I was like, oh, that's so sweet. Maybe holy basil would be like supportive for the spirit or the adrenals of this deer. And I gave it to, and this is how it is. We're medicine women and we are walking in union with everything around us. And the remedies are just going to show themselves to us in the way that we need them to.
Yeah. And I think that thing, like sometimes the remedy will drop in and you'll be like, oh, and you go to read it in the materia medica and it's just, oh, wow. Once you've got the groundwork and you understand the kingdoms perhaps, or if you just have a broad kind of understanding of the remedies, that they do just drop in and it does surprise you. I do also use repertorization. If I'm not feeling really clear about something or so there's a particular symptom that I feel really needs to be, that I really need to put into the repertory. But it's again, it's like one of those tools, like it's the tools that we have in the tool belt that what do I need to do for this patient that I have in front of me? Where am I going to find the information even? Like intuiting, where am I going to find this information? Is it going to be like going into to the dispensary and looking at the remedies, or going across my bookshelf and just going, which book has the answer? And books, they've got a lot of answers in them, but it's just that kind of softening into it. And I also wanted to touch on that when Angie was talking about the masculine, because the masculine is also very intuitive. And there's a number of teachers such as Colin Griffith, Andreas Tilch, J.S. Shah, and they talk about using their intuition. Yeah, and these are men that have been in practice for a very long time. They're masters of this craft, and they also tap into they've also come to the point where it's just we can use our intuition, and they encourage their patients to use their intuition as well.
That's beautiful. Ladies, can you tell us a bit more of the practicalities of the school? Like, how was it run? Is it for homeopaths, like a postgrad, or is it, you mentioned about mums being able to attend as well? Can you tell us just more about like the practical stuff of like, how do people sign up and how long does it go for and how are the classes delivered and what sort of platform you use and all that sort of stuff?
Yeah, the website's intuitivehomeopathy.org, and you can sign up for courses there. There is a 2 to 2.5 year certification course, which includes all of the material. So it's like you sign up for that and you're starting fresh from the beginning and starting in and getting the live lectures of minerals, followed by nosodes and miasms. And then you're going to take energetic anatomy and physiology, plants and animals, while also getting case-taking classes and turning in cases and doing shadowing. And some of that is in cooperation with our group practice, the Homeopathy Hive. And then if you don't want to do all of it, which it is a lot, and you just want to pick and choose live courses to attend, you can do that as well. So people might want to start with just signing up for the minerals that Lizzie and I are teaching in the fall and just picking and choosing as we go along. That said, the case taking and some of the deeper classes are only for the certification students. And really, we're only having 30 slots or something for that. So already there's some slots taken, but that might evolve as we go along. We also have a professionals group that meets once a month, and it's actually going to include 2 astrologer homeopaths. Eileen Nauman is one of them, who has actually spoken a bunch with you. And we're going to be doing some provings and work with the stars and astrology. And so that's really exciting too. So you can go to the website and sign up there. And then when you sign up, you'll get directed to the Mighty Networks platform, which is what hosts all the material and the community there. Yeah. And if you have any questions, you can contact my admin person, admin@intuitivehomeopathy.org. I think that's it.
So it's anybody, right? Like it's somebody that's completely new to
Yeah.
homeopathy or homeopaths or
So
There's
this,
something for everyone. We do have an introductory course for people who are really like new to homeopathy. I have an intuition course. We can give you a call and help you figure out what it is that you'd be interested in. But if you're really excited to practice and you want to become an intuitive homeopath, then look on the website and really feel into signing up for the certification program. And there's an application for that. We really want people who are only like, yes, 100% passionate, going to be committed, because we're committing to the students a lot of energy and we really want committed people. But for people who are just like, I'm learning this for myself, for my family, or I just want to learn more about nosodes and miasms, people can just take those particular courses as well. And that's less, right? Because it's a la carte, right? So yeah.
so if you're already a professional homeopath and you're not particularly interested in certification, then you can do each of the semesters of the plants and I think it's such valuable information as a practitioner.
Yeah, Sarah, you did it. And one of the ways that I do try to teach materia medica intuitively is to do meditations on materia medica, so that instead of being like all like in your head, you're relaxed, you're taking a deep breath in, and you're just reminding yourself of the information you already know. It's in the field, right? So it's just like we're just trying to plug your energetic field into the field of knowing. So every week there's a meditation that goes along with the material. Yeah. And so people who've had a traditional homeopathic education may enjoy these classes because they are a little bit more contemporary in the material that we're integrating.
That's really cool. I love the idea of doing that. I've done something like that with Sarah where there's a meditation that kind of went alongside, and also with some of those meditative type provings that we've done as well. When I've experienced something in that way, it's almost as if it's on a soul level. So you don't have to use your brain to remember it. It's just embedded in your energy. So it's easy to just draw on that knowledge. And it's just once again, a different way of learning. And actually, it wouldn't be amazing if they taught that way in school as well. At
I
least
really
some.
feel that that's the future. I feel like with the acceleration of the energy on the planet and all these solar flares is that we're becoming much more psychic sponges. And so you can come into the field of somebody and then already absorb so much. And I do hold retreats as well. When I held a retreat here last spring, oh my goodness, the women absorbed so much. It was incredible. And I think that's my hope, is that yes, we put the information out there, but just by coming into the right field and being in a heart-centered place and just loving each other, just being in this universal love field, this sacred like heart energy, that it just drops in more automatically. And so that you're like, oh yeah, I feel it. This is what feels right to me. And the remedies come in. But it has to be a combination, because people do. I did have a test. I do have a final exam for everybody's benefit. There does. It's not like you want to just intuit learning how to drive a car either, right?
Yeah.
There is some basic pieces of knowledge that we need to make sure people know.
And there's a lot of really solid kind of case taking and case review that happens as well for the certification students. And that's reviewed quite closely and feedback is given. It's probably more than I had when I did 2 years of clinic in my undergrad as well. Like it's quite intensive. Like we really guide the students through so that they know how to take a case and they know how to sink into their intuition, or that they're definitely in process with that. For
Yeah,
sure.
we're nonstop students, right? And I think if you approach life as a constant school, 2.5 years, you can only know so much. But if you can at least know how to access the information, at least know how to find that information when you need it, that's what we want. We want to just be able to create the confidence that you've got the resources to get that information. Because that's, we're in the information age. Homeopathy is informational medicine. And it is all about bringing the light of conscious awareness to the problem with the right information, right? And so you're the conduit. You're feeling into what is going on with this person with like deep curiosity and compassion, the curiosity of the mind and the compassion of the heart, joining forces in that client and saying, what is it? And then creating that healing space of what is here. And then you need to draw from, your bookshelf behind you and all of those resources to, this is like treats like. This is what it is. And it's like we can bring that miracle forth, and it can be a challenge or it can be easeful. And we want to bring as many times easefulness to the process, right? We want to bring as much grace to that process so that it just unfolds. And we want to empower our clients. Like, one thing that's unique about our group practice is that we don't withhold information from our clients. We want our clients to know as much as possible because we need to get them out the door so that we can get new clients in so that we can help as many people as possible. And one of the reasons why these families want to study homeopathy is because homeopathy isn't just they heal and get better and go back to some normative way of living. No, homeopathy becomes a way of life. When my daughter saw that deer, she thought, what remedy do I give it? It is her way of life. Before I came and sat at my desk, she left so many snacks at my desk. I was like, is there a remedy from the squirrel? Because she is jamming snacks all over my desk. There must be a remedy from the squirrel. And I say that to my husband who gets it. It's literally the culture of the way that we live, right? So it's almost like bringing a whole culture into somebody's life because it brings every aspect of this planetary existence where we are navigating energy so much more alive. It's an honor to get to teach it. I really feel like it's teaching energy at its greatest depth possible. I don't know what other modality out there has that potential. And that's really why all of us, after so many years of practice with so many hard cases, are still so passionate about it.
Absolutely. I just want to say that for our listeners that haven't got a copy of Angelica's incredible book, Healing Complex Children with Homeopathy, that book is absolutely a game changer, absolute game changer. The way in which you understand remedies at such a deep level, Angie, you can tell that you have felt the remedy, you have experienced the remedy, you understand the essence of the remedies, but also the way in which you empower the parents reading the book to then get in touch with their children on a level that they probably never have before. The tools that you give in there is just unparalleled. It's a game changer book that stands out above so many other already incredible homeopathy books out there, but every homeopath on the planet needs to have this book in their practice. It's called Healing Complex Children with Homeopathy, but you can use that information for everyone in your clinic, not necessarily just children. And also, it's such a great book for parents to have. So you don't need to be a homeopath. It's for parents as well. And for anybody really who works with children with complex needs. So definitely get yourself a copy. I think whereabouts are you selling it these days? Is it available?
It's on Amazon. It's on Kindle now too. And I think there's some distributors in Europe that sell it as well.
I'm glad to hear it's on Kindle because I do having hard copies and electronic copies of all my homeopathy books. So I can go Control F and just find the thing in the book that I was looking for. So that's great to know.
Thank you so much.
It's
That
a
was very
pleasure.
sweet. I appreciate it. And I still get feedback on how it's when I hear about moms who can't even afford to see a homeopath and then they get the book and they're able to help their kids. It's just like one single story of that makes this whole journey worth it because it's not easy being a mom these days. And we want so much for this next generation to have opportunities to flourish. And we all are feeling the pressure of the limitations on this next generation. And we feel the gravity and the sadness of that too. And if we can really come together with the same heart, we all have the same heart of compassion for these kids and these families. There's so much that can be done. And it is evolving homeopathy. I truly feel like these kids are the canaries in the coal mine, or our guides or our teachers that are, if we can help them with homeopathy, we're going to evolve homeopathy.
One really exciting bonus of that book is I find with homeopathy, one of the big jobs that I have is actually teaching a client what information I need from them to make my case prescribing easier. Like part of the whole process is just actually teaching them what type of information I need that's helpful, because so many of them are so used to giving certain types of information to all the various medical practitioners they've gone to see, which is not actually helpful to us. So what I find is when I get my clients with children with complex needs to read this book, I can fast track my results with them, because the parent who has read the book quickly understands then what type of information they need from me, so we can quicker get to a good result. So that's why I encourage all of my clients with children with complex needs to read this book, so they can understand what I need from them to help them. So I really, love that so much. Ladies, I can't believe I get to see you in Bali in September. We're going to have so much fun. Thank you so much for coming on the show today. And for our listeners, just again, that is intuitivehomeopathy.org. Thanks so much, ladies. See you all soon.
Aw, Eugenie, so helpful.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.